This talk is about an introduction to Pacific Data Stream. So we're just gonna jump straight on in because that was a wonderful introduction. So what is Data Stream? Data Stream is an open access site for water quality data. We kind of take a more of a focused approach on only focusing on one specific data type so we can do it well and integrate with the community as well. Data Stream as a platform is free and open access for anyone to use. We plan to always keep this as free as possible. Part of our goal is to minimize barriers and ensure there's access for sharing data. And we always try and foster connections and collaboration between organizations in the same region. When you think about like water quality, it can be a wide variety of many different things. We primarily focus on aquatic ecosystems, and these are some of the community groups that are doing monitoring across Canada. So a little bit of our background. Data Stream started out in the Mackenzie Basin as a collaboration with the Northwest Territories. We were trying to figure out how we can do water policy change. And we found that there was segregation and silos of data all across the region. And we're like, we need to solve this first. Data Stream grew out of as a program out of the Gordon Foundation, which is a 55-year-old philanthropic charity. And they have a long standing of supporting freshwater stewardship across Canada. So since our start back in 2016, we've grown across the country. People really liked the model that we were applying to the Mackenzie Basin, and they wanted it in their region as well. So we quickly started working with the Atlantic Water Network to bring Atlantic Data Stream. Then we expanded with the Lake Winnipeg Foundation to Lake Winnipeg Basin and the Nelson River. Over the last year, we've been working on the Great Lakes Data Stream. And because we're in the Yukon today, we've already started working on Pacific Data Stream, which I'll give a brief demo on later in the presentation. Data Stream has been growing like crazy. We have over 230 monitoring groups across the country, and they're monitoring at almost 50,000 monitoring locations and have collected almost 30 million observations so far. So who is sharing data on Data Stream? We work with groups across the board. So everything from community-based monitoring groups to watershed associations to Indigenous governments and organizations and all levels of government and academia. It is important, oh, is that me? No. Okay, it is important to note that we don't own any of your data. The contributors maintain ownership of the data at all times, and they apply an open license to it. And they choose when to publish and when to share information. At Data Stream, we've come up with what we call the data to policy cycle. And we believe this is a continuous cycle of continuous improvement. So it all starts with like data collection and monitoring, and it goes to an open data platform, in this case, Data Stream. Data scientists or others can then pull that data and then interpret it into knowledge. And then that can be used for informed policy decision and action, which will then determine where there are new data gaps. And the cycle goes around and around. We try and use this to foster transparency and trust throughout the entire system. This is kind of our comedic slide in the middle, where a lot of people that are thinking about data are always like, oh, it's like the Minority Report. You know, just move the data around magically in the air. But we know that most data looks more like this, where it's on older computers, it's on shelves, it's on paper, and we want to work continuously with these groups to make this data open and accessible so it can be used in future policy decisions. All data is important, so we're hoping the more we can bring together and the more we can open, the more advanced interpretations can be used to make those informed policy decisions. So I want to kind of go into our approach around data itself. So when we were first looking around, there was no national data standard in Canada. So we did a lot of looking around, and we found that in the US, they have their own data standard that they've been using for many years. And kind of a little bit of a side note on, they did a case study to determine like the value of their data and why, and if they needed a standard. So they did a study over 100 years worth of nutrient water quality data collected from all levels of government, community groups, and tribal governments. And they found that over half of it was unusable or missing or ambiguous data. So it was completely unusable. And they estimated that this lost data was valued at around over $12 billion and could not be reused. So to address this challenge, they decided to create what was called WQX, which is the US standard. And we we took this standard and adopted it for the Canadian context. So this is kind of like a brief sample of what it looks like. Because water quality is so complicated and has a lot of metadata required to ensure long-term reuse, we make sure we collect as much as possible without making it too burdensome to the communities, but also make sure that researchers and people that want to interpret the data have enough metadata to use it for as many purposes as possible. Along with the data itself, we also have a wider range of metadata at the data set level that we collect, and we can present this and feed it into other systems in multiple formats such as ISO 19115 and W3C DCAT and JSON LD. Happy to talk more about those later. So how is data being used within DataStream and how people are using it already? So it's being used in a wide range of methods, anything from advanced modeling systems to being able to inform how to change their monitoring programs themselves, how to improve them, how to collaborate with other groups in the community. We always hear positive feedback around, I found out about this new group monitoring my area, and now we're collaborating together. We're measuring additional characteristics that they are, and we're no longer doing duplicate monitoring at specific locations. We're now more efficient in saving money and being able to add more value to our region. One example of this is the WWF watershed report that happened a few years ago. They pulled data from DataStream to ensure that they could hydrate their graph. They saw a decrease in data deficiency across the country from the previous report they did. I also heard that it saved them 3 months of work by being able to pull data directly from DataStream so that they didn't have to go manually go find that data, transform that data, clean that data before they could use it. Our positioning and approach on DataStream is trying to be as neutral as possible and say independent and unbiased. We're kind of in a unique position because we're not a government, we're not a private corporation, we're not an academia, we're a nonprofit. We can be as neutral as possible. We can do things differently. And we can really foster these unique perspectives around breaking down barriers to open data. We can move fast, we don't have red tape. And we find this builds a lot of transparency and trust among our community. And we really focus as DataStream as a program and not a project, because we're always committed to continuous improvements and we're always looking to grow and improve. Oh, demo time, awesome. Obviously we're not gonna do a live demo, but so I have slideshow edition for you guys. So this is what Pacific DataStream looks like. The bottom's a little cropped off, but maybe I can share that later. We focus on discovering data, so we want to make it as easy as possible. Okay, someone's reading. So you can zoom in on this map, find your common area. You can see there's already a ton of data in British Columbia, and we're looking to get more data in the Yukon. So if you know someone that has water quality data, please tell them to reach out to us. We'd love to work with them to help them share their data openly to ensure it's being used in policy decisions. You can filter by multiple things such as characteristics, the organization, the region. Our platform can support up to 21,000 different unique characteristics. Currently, there's about 1,500 different characteristics you can search. There is a different hub or interface for every different hub that you saw earlier on. And they all have their own different websites. And we take a very community-focused approach to ensure that we can offer support in a more customized way, but also we know that communities, they know their water systems the best. They know what's wrong. They know how to interpret that data. They can be on the ground and help the best. From here, you can click on one of these points and then you can dive directly into a data set, and it looks kind of like this. On the left, you have your locations and filters around time ranges. You can add multiple locations, visualize them together. You can also download this data set as a whole or just the selected locations. There's another download tool I'll show in a bit. You can also, as a contributor, attach attachments to add additional metadata. All data sets have an open access data license applied to them for easy citation. And we also have a public API if you need to do advanced filtering. And that API link will take you directly to a page that has a predefined API code sample that you can just pop in. You can use, there's also a separate map just to filter out what locations you want. So you can select everything on a specific river and just compare those directly. And then here's your characteristic list where you can toggle between multiple different characteristics using different method speciations and sample fractions. For those in the water quality space, we also support all CCMA guidelines, and we're looking to support more in the future, more of those provincial guidelines. And then here we have a tool for those a little bit more power users, where you can pre-filter different watersheds, different activity groups, different characteristics that are specific to you over a specific time range. And this will allow you to, it'll build a custom data set just for you to download. And each one of those lines will have a unique DOI, which is a digital object identifier, which you can go to visit all the additional metadata for each of those rows. And that is the end. Man, I did power through that. I did want to leave a lot of time for questions. So if I'm unable to answer any of your questions, please reach out to team@datastream.org. It'll get to the right person and they'll reach out. We have a data specialist in almost every one of our hubs, one of our regions, that is looking forward to working with you or answering any of your questions. I also threw up some loaded, more technical questions that I didn't have a chance to throw into the presentation. If you wanted to throw those curveballs at me.
Can we throw questions at you that are not on that list?
Of course, absolutely, absolutely. Let's do those first.
Oh yeah, of course, of course. Yeah. So Will, if we're looking to push data to DataStream, what does that look like?
There are multiple processes of doing it. So the first one is a manual upload. So we have an Excel template or a Google template that you can download that allows you to enter in all your data and has a bunch of like documentation along with it to show you why these are best practices, why this metadata is important. Every uploader gets a dedicated data specialist to their quote account to help them walk them through the process in any possible way. We can even help you transform your data for free because we know that transforming the data is a huge barrier to making data open. So manually uploading it is probably the easiest way for a lot of those smaller data sets, a lot of those smaller groups. However, the browser has limitations where you can only upload up to 5 gigabytes. So we do have another automated process built into DataStream that can automatically pull data from your open access API or platform. And we can help you build out a custom transformer to pull that data.
Okay, so to clarify, we would have to have data on an open access platform.
If you want to use that automated process, otherwise you would use a template to manually upload it.
Okay, I see.
Hi, we're both with Yukon government. So we have the
Wonderful.
data that you're looking for. My name is Marie. I'm the water information specialist. And I was curious if you're looking for discrete data or if you can handle also continuous data. And also if you're looking for water quality or hydrology as well. So like water levels and stuff like that.
Great question. So we primarily focus on discrete samples. However, we can take continuous data. It's not something we focus on. Our schema is not optimized for that data specifically. However, if you're doing samples every 5 or 15 minutes, we can definitely take that so it has a completeness. We don't do hydrology data around flow. Our schema is set up to take depths and water levels. It's not something we specialize on at this time. And I can say that we're working on supporting groundwater, which I know the Yukon has tons of. So we're looking to expand our data schema to support groundwater and all the additional metadata of that. We've been working on it for a couple of years already, but we want to make sure it's right and robust before we release it. Did I miss anything in that multi-question? Perfect.
Quick follow-up on that. Do you have the intention of adding flow?
I think that's a question you should probably email in because I don't want to misspeak. However, if people are asking for flow, we'll definitely move it up the priority list. We want to make sure we're constantly getting feedback from the community on what's important to them, ensure that the platform can handle that to meet their needs. I know there's additional complications with flow itself on how it can be visualized. So we want to make sure that we're doing it in a scientifically robust way. But please reach out and say like, this is important to us. We think there's value in having this on DataStream. And we'd love to talk to you more about that.
I think we have time for 1 or 2 more questions. So I saw a hand here.
I'm perfectly on time then.
Hi, my name is Michael.
Hi,
I
Mike.
have a company that makes time-lapse cameras, and they're used for monitoring all kinds of things. So I was wondering if on your roadmap you have some vision coming in as well to see how maybe ice builds up and things like that, and how would we as a private company donate data that we sometimes collect back into the system if there's an API or anything on the roadmap for that?
Great question. We've been asked about adding photos of monitoring locations to our platform. There's a lot of security concerns around adding photos to a platform. It's currently not on our roadmap, but I'll definitely take that feedback back to the team saying we're still hearing that photos on the platform is valuable. But I can't promise anything at this time.
Great. Okay. Last chance for questions, and I don't see any online. There was a request on how to follow up with you, so I shared the email address, Will, that you provided earlier. So I think with that, we can wrap up. Thanks so much, Will.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.